So every Wednesday I brought it. I brought it to work, and that was just how. So every Wednesday I brought it. I brought it to work. I brought it to work, and so every Wednesday I brought it. So every Wednesday I brought it. So every Wednesday I brought it. I brought it to work, and that was just how it was. Okay, so I had part 2 all recorded. It was all done. All I had to do was edit it, and I opened it up on my computer and it was gone. Luckily, it was only the first few minutes of the second part, so I'm just gonna re-record it right now for you guys. Hey ho, it's me again. Yeah, so at this point I realized that none of this footage is gonna make sense if I just copied and pasted it over and tried to splice it together. So I re-recorded the whole thing for you, retold this whole story, tried to make it clear the second time around, and yeah, hopefully this will make a ton more sense now that I re-recorded it and sliced it down even more. Anyways, yeah, let's jump back in. I'll have the same shirt throughout the whole video and the same hair, same lighting, so we're good. Yeah, go. So when I came back from Disneyland, I decided to not renew my contract with them essentially. I didn't want to extend my stay out there and start from the bottom again. I wanted to be home and just refresh again back at home now that I had all this new knowledge, all these new experiences. So the idea of still having a full-time job while balancing dance at the same time as kind of this after work sort of a deal was still the main deal for me when I got back home. Again, I thought that getting a job after college is just what you do, right? And you either do an internship or just get your first job, you just go. So when I was at home, I started applying to all of these marketing jobs, right? These marketing and business jobs, half of which just turned out to be pyramid schemes that say marketing but really mean in-person sales or sales. And I was shooting really high also with these companies that we all know, all these different tech companies, all these popular companies, and just getting rejected left and right. I was even rejected by Disney, which I was like, but I worked for you guys for like 6 months and I still couldn't land a job, and I was like, why? So I was struggling to get a job in the corporate world. So what ended up happening, like what happens with a lot of us, is I ended up getting my first job through a referral. 2 of my aunts as well as my dad have been working at this company for years, right? Like 20, 30 plus years already. And one of my aunts who's been working there pretty much her whole career really wanted to help me out, realizing that I wasn't getting a job, realizing that I was struggling with just getting into the job market. And so my first full-time job in New York started with this new digital team. And it was cool because I made new homies, I had new work experience, I was making more money than I was ever making at any part-time job that I ever had in college. I was definitely making more than I was at Disneyland. The office itself was only the next town over, so in the morning I would wake up at like 8:30 to show up at work at 9 o'clock. So for the most part in the beginning, everything is, you know, pretty good. My 401k is getting matched, I have health insurance, I have this short commute, but here's the deal. While everything surrounding the job was pretty dope, the actual daily tasks that I had were not the best. Essentially revolving around customer support and IT support. What my role was, as well as my coworkers' roles, was to answer these calls from these internal employees of the company who needed help with this specific software that they were using. And so what would happen from time to time is me and my coworkers would be human verbal punching bags for these internal employees. And if you've worked in customer service, you pretty much know how this goes. You can't really do anything about it. Sure, you can call up your manager if they ask for it, but at the end of the day, nothing is really your fault, right? Or at least none of the high level issues that they might be having or experiencing. And even if the support calls weren't that bad, just the action of talking to people on the phone for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, was just really taxing mentally, emotionally at times, and physically too. And on top of that, I'm still trying to dance. I still am running Sandbox on the side, but I'd find myself super tired when I got out of work, and even though the commute was super short, I just didn't want to do anything when I got home. Now, except for Wednesdays, which were Sandbox's original weekly class days, I'd pretty much be spending my time at home just sitting and just potatoing out. So luckily I had Sandbox on those Wednesdays to just pretty much pump me up and keep me in dance. And I cared a lot about Sandbox at the time, and I still do. So even at the time when I had that job, I'd be bringing in this giant suitcase. You probably remembered if you went to Sandbox a few times. And in that suitcase was this big speaker from my old team that I asked if I could have, and we would use that speaker at Sandbox since the studio speakers weren't that good. So yeah, every Wednesday I'd have this giant speaker like tucked under my desk at work. So at 5 o'clock exactly, I would take the speaker, I'd roll it out with my backpack, and I would book it out the door, jump onto the shuttle bus to the train station, and just take the first train out to Manhattan. And that's how I was doing Sandbox pretty much every week for months. So after months and months of being there and doing the job, going home, doing dance, doing Sandbox in that sort of a way, I knew that this relationship with dance wasn't what I wanted. This isn't what I was going for when I came back from California. All the things, all that pumped up energy that I had wasn't being funneled into a place that was where I wanted to be. And don't get me wrong, like 9 to 5s are dope in their own sense. You get all the benefits, you get this consistent salary, like it's solid. But I knew that there had to be a different way to just do the game. There had to be a way to keep pursuing what I wanted to pursue with this energy and this mindset that I had while still making my money, while still collecting my coins. And not just like, I don't mean like scraping by, you know what I mean? Like, I'm talking about doing well for yourself. So about 5-6 months into my job, that's when one of the biggest signs just came around and like hooked me into the face. A workshop series that changed the way I view dance, my perspective on industry and community, and solidifying this notion that there had to be a different way to do the game. So at this point in time, this is when I signed up for the Give and Take Intensive made by Bong Bruno and Josar Alva. Now it was essentially a 1-week training session that was 4 or 5 hours a day from Monday until Saturday, and it was divided into a choreographer's discipline and a dancer's discipline. I really wanted to build my choreography skills and just like creative skills, so I went down the choreographer route along with 3 other of my homies. And so every day we'd be working either with just the choreographers or with the dancers, and we'd be flexing our creative muscles in ways that I didn't know were possible. And at the same time, we were learning about all this history / all this practical knowledge about the community, about the industry, about just different jobs that were out there when it came to dance. And so how that week went down for me at my full-time job was I was taking half days some of the days, and I was booking it from my job, driving all the way down to Elizabeth, New Jersey, an hour and a half out of the way, and just changing out of my work clothes, jumping into some sweats, and getting into it. And honestly, it was so fun, challenging, and rewarding. I would 100% do it again. I remember one lesson that really stuck to me when we went over it for the first time, and that was the different jobs that are available on a typical industry gig. At the time, all I really thought about when it came to dance, or at least industry dance, was that you are a dancer or you're a choreographer, and that was pretty much it. But during that lesson, I realized that there's the dancers, there's the choreographers, there's the dance captains, there's creative directors, there's producers, there's the company, different roles that you can take that are related to dance but aren't necessarily being the dancer. And this just opened up my mind for me in terms of realizing that dance doesn't have to be this crazy long shot of an idea. To me, it boiled down to how willing you are to explore those different options and just knowing what options actually exist. So after finishing that week of give and take with all of our friends, with Bong and Josar leading the way, I left that week knowing that this was real. That doing dance and doing the game differently was already happening. That our friends, that our peers, that other people were already doing it. So the question for me went from, is it possible, to when are you gonna do it? And how are you gonna make it happen? So right off of Give and Take, I had the opportunity to help choreograph a part of a set for our alumni team of our old team at this community competition and showcase called Sayao in 2018. And just off of what I learned at Give and Take, I was so willing and so down to take risks with the choreography, with the staging, with the blocking. I felt confident in trying new things and just flexing these problem-solving skills that I didn't know I had earlier. And beyond that, I felt pushed to create better choreography, think about how the audience would receive it, and also put so much trust in my friends, all the dancers, all the people who are on that squad for that specific set, knowing that whatever I threw at them, that they could handle it, that they could flip it, and they can make it good. And so what ended up happening with that performance, with that piece that I choreographed, there were lighting cues, there were spotlights, there was dimming of lights, there were dancers in the audience, there was jumping on stage, there was all these different parts happening at the same time, and it was dope. And besides the performance being super hype, and super loud and the crowd being super into it, the process of actually creating it was for me just so fun and challenging and different, and it just made me feel like, damn, like I can actually do this stuff. So what I feel like I learned the most out of Give and Take and that set was to progress the community scene in New York, we had to start jumping. To not just think outside of the box, but we had to straight up thrive outside of it. Now at this time, things are looking pretty good. Like, I'm pumped off of Give and Take. I'm pumped off this performance that we just did. The only thing was this, I would call, positive pressure of feeling like I had to top what I did before. The idea that whatever I produced next had to be even more dope than the last. Now at the same time, of course, Sandbox is still happening on Wednesdays. I'm helping plan it throughout the week. I still have my full-time job, of course, which is the center, the bulk of what's taking up all of my time and energy. So I knew I was in this weird spot with dance and with my job, with my career path, you would say. I knew I was making moves in some sort of a way, but the direction in which I was going was not 100% clear. The only things that were constant and clear in my mind was that I can do dance and I'm gonna make it happen. So finally, after all of this stuff happening, I had a new direction and a new destination in mind. And simply put, that was just to create, to get good at creating, to produce new things, to raise the bar of dance in a different way, to prove to others, but more to prove to myself that this game that I said can be done differently is going to be done differently. Not just by me, but that I could push other people to do it differently too. Now, how is I gonna make this happen at the same time as, again, my full-time job, Sandbox, dancing, trying to get good, blah, 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 blah. I didn't really know. So at that point on, again, I'm super pumped, I'm super ready. I don't know what to do. I'm just shaking around and jumping around in place in my head, trying to figure out what's next. And then at that point on came a big, big turning point in terms of my mindset towards dance. That was the gig that changed the way I thought about myself, how I thought about our community, how I thought about the industry, how I thought about what was just possible, and the time frame in which things were ready to go. And this gig was none other than dancing with my friends at the biggest stage I've ever danced on in my entire life. Throwing it back to my K-pop days in high school, this was dancing with BTS for their world tour in New York. So I hope you're enjoying the story so far. I'm gonna cap it off in this next part, which is the very last part of all of this, which will bring us into present day, which will go over the BTS World Tour, the decision that I had to make whether I was going to stay in my corporate job or not, and also all the little and big things that have helped get me to where I am right now, sitting in front of you guys, in front of my camera, in my room. Yeah, this point. So anyways, let's keep the discussion going. If you have any questions or any comments about anything, just throw them down into the comments below. Like this video to let me know that you're still following along, and subscribe so you don't miss that very last part, which will just cap off everything in terms of that decision to leave my full-time and transition into the world of dance. And of course, don't leave without checking out the description below. I just threw in some new things that will really help you out, including a new landing page where you'll be able to just throw in your name and your email, where I can then send you resources, news, all this good stuff directly to you guys. So I will see you next time in the very last part of this series, part number 3. I'll see you there. Peace, peace.